Well, it's changed in the day. I'm talking in the 50s and 60s. It was catch and throw guys, and then uh, now if you can't hit, the bat is the separator today, unfortunately. But also there for and again the game has changed in that it used to be guys would catch 150 games a year. That was hey, you're the catcher, you catch every day. Now if a guy catches 125 games, I don't know how many guys last year caught 125 games, and now that the backup catcher is an important piece, and certainly they like to have. There's a priority on if you can get a left-hand hitting catcher, especially as your backup guy, or to take some tough right-handed at bats off of your right-handed hitting catcher. The In the probably around 2010, maybe 2011, with the analytic metric influx. The We're recognizing how important the receiving piece is relative to run prevention because there's over 5,000 pitches that could go either way over the course of a season, and each one has a run value depending upon the count on the hitter. And so the macro view of catching in run prevention really was highlighted. I think in 2011, LaCroix saved 42 runs. That is probably equivalent to 4+ major league wins. A major league win being worth maybe $8 to $10 million. And during that same time, Ryan Dummett, who was more bat than receive, lost 58 runs. So that's like 10 wins if you swap teams with those two guys. So now we're learning more about the subtleties of the game that we can quantify and how it adds to wins at the end of the season.
For sure. And that data obviously helps just to kind of back the change and things like that. Obviously, we've gone to a lot more of the one knee stances and things like that. What are your thoughts on that and the situations that it works?
Well, I mean, it's very individualized. Especially some guys with less mobility, bigger guys don't have the balance component when you're in a 3-point knee stance as opposed to a 2-point traditional stance. It's very individualized. I think there are advantages certainly from the strike situation, being able to get more strikes from a one knee stance. I think that we've seen that it has really not affected throwing, and the jury is out on lateral moves. I think being down to block pitches, you're already down in the ground, and I'm not a proponent of either one. I try and find out what's best for each individual, and even if that means that they have a variety of stances based on the situation. I'm going to be in my best receiving stance when receiving is a priority, my best throwing stance when throwing is a priority, my best blocking stance when blocking is a priority. I think that there's some strident thinking going on relative to one knee. There's some people really have never done it, tried it, or seen it, or instructed it, and yet they're totally against it. And I'm very open-minded because I want to find out what works best for each individual. And it's easy to measure the data, and so we can find out what works. And I think that probably what happens every time you're on a one knee stance and the ball in the dirt gets by the catcher, the assumption is that he would have blocked that ball if he were in a 2-point stance, and I'm not sure that that's the case. So I think you just have to be open-minded and you have to experiment. You just got to find out what works for each individual.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear you say that. I think there's such a people kind of find themselves on one side or the other of this argument. And the reality is that, everybody's different. And we're just trying to expose guys to as much as we possibly can and see what clicks. But the one knee stance for me kind of goes back to the segment we had earlier talking about ground connection and, the control of the ball being a little more connected to the ground. You see guys starting to move a little bit faster. Do you think that ground connection, plays into that just speed of the catch and receiving?
I think what it does, I'm not sure that that's the factor. I think that you're more balanced, you're more relaxed. When you're more relaxed, you can react more efficiently, more quickly. And I think that I mean, 10 years ago, no one or very few guys were on a knee, at least very often. and all of a sudden, like in a year, everybody catches on the knee, and you have to ask yourself, well, we're in the most traditional uh, uh, sport that we never change for anything. That's one of the certainly one of the beauties of the game is that it hasn't changed a whole lot. Yet overnight, we saw a segment of our catching population catching a high percentage of the time on a knee. Well, why is that happening? Because they're far more relaxed. It's less wear and tear. I think that if you ask most catchers why they catch on a knee, I think that's one of the reasons. They're not they don't get worn down by having to work so hard being balanced all the time. Yet there are others with unbelievable flexibility, like Higashioka with the Yankees. He's got the lowest traditional 2-point stance, and he very rarely catches on a knee.
And you have the idea of, like you talked about, hitting's the separator. And so if you're able to be healthier longer through the season, we know that's gonna keep the bat swinging.
I think so. Of course, there are some. You take a lot more foul balls on your thighs down on a one knee stance, and you need to have padded sliders for me to produce. And G-Force produces some. They have some really good products, but it's different. Catching on one knee is different than catching in a traditional two point stance.